Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 35 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle, and growing. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. Two professional entities playing right now in this so-called dry time of the year for sports, the New Orleans Zephyrs and the New Orleans Voodoo, and even the Zephyrs are idle at this point, Lenny.
Yeah, on the road at the moment. Back home Saturday night for a big 4th of July game against Iowa, always one of the biggest attractions of the year on the minor league schedule, whether you're at home on the 3rd or on the 4th. It's generally a huge night with fireworks, sellout crowds. It should be a fun night at the ballpark.
Yeah, it was an interesting week with Josh Hamilton in town last week, Anthony Renato in town, and again, not back until the coming weekend, and looking forward to that. And, of course, the New Orleans Voodoo idle as well locally because they won't play again here until July 18th. One more home game against Tampa Bay. Now have lost 7 straight. Same old script. Play very well for a half. Can't perform in the third quarter. And ultimately, the one bad quarter dooms them. It's not like they're getting blown out. They're getting beat because they simply can't play 4 quarters.
Simple philosophy. You got to play 60 minutes of football, and anything less than that is generally not going to get the job done. Like you said, good job for 30 minutes right there, and then just come out in the third quarter and the game gets away from them.
2 stories surrounding the New Orleans Pelicans that are interesting. One, of course, the big story surrounding Drew Holiday and the deceit that took place regarding his physical condition when the Pelicans made a huge investment, trading a couple of lottery draft picks to get him. And, of course, they're on the hook for a lot of money for a guy that's been hurt much of the time, if not most of the time, that he's been in New Orleans. Lenny, this cuts on several levels. One, your own accountability in terms of checking a guy out. Your medical staff, are they culpable here? 2, the general manager, is he culpable in not really understanding what he was investing in? 3, the 76ers, who have been fined substantially by the league, but is that enough? It really kind of amounts to a slap on the wrist. And 4, just the overall accountability of trying to put an estimate on a player as to what he's worth. So, I mean, there's a lot to this story.
There are a number of layers to it. I guess the irony of the story is this. When this all happened and you had things going on draft night, and as it were, Nerlens Noel slipped down to 6, fell right into the Pelicans' lap. They really didn't want him at that point because, 1, he's coming off an injury, and 2, you have Anthony Davis here. But the fact that Noel was the injured player, and he was basically going to be dealing with a redshirt year almost his first year in the league, he was the guy dealing with the injury. As it were, who's the injured guy now? It's Holiday. So, let's see what ends up happening with this. Is there any other potential ramifications that come out of it? But you're right. $3 million, the reported fine for, dealing a guy who had, 4 years and nearly $50 million remaining on a deal, that doesn't equate to me.
No, it really doesn't. The other story, Greg Monroe having a camp in his hometown in New Orleans, the former Helen Cox star, open and how he'd like to play for the Pelicans, but he said they've expressed no interest.
And it's hard to at this point. First of all, it's not you can't contact these people. So maybe that's his way of saying, yeah, I'd like to be contacted. I know you can't contact me yet, right, but just remember, come Wednesday, the 1st, the craziness sets in. And the NBA. Let me say this. The way the NBA does things, I don't totally get. The ability to trade on draft night. There's no trades after 2 o'clock on draft day. So you got teams making picks for other teams. You got guys wearing hats, and they're never going to, never going to that team. One of the classic examples that was made about that in the story was Nerlens Noel sitting there in a Pelicans hat. He'd already been traded to the 76ers at that point. He didn't even know it. Secondly is what's going to happen. You basically got a league year that's not going to start until, I guess, July the 10th or something like that. So you've got maybe 10 days to go get these deals done. Deals are going to be done on July the 1st, but nothing's going to become official till the 10th. You've got trades being agreed to. Again, nothing becomes official until, around the 10th. So it's the story is out there, and the story can't become official for over a week, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Nah, it really doesn't. And then, of course, you got LeBron James opting out, but that's no surprise. This was expected from the start. Fully expect he'll be back in Cleveland, but the de facto coach, he just wants to make sure that he gets his players, right?
I guess so. Again, one of those things, it does not make a lot of sense in the whole business of the NBA.
No, couldn't agree with you more. Louisiana Sports Writers Association inducting 8 new members into its Hall of Fame this past weekend. You were there. Others were honored. It was a very special weekend.
It was a terrific weekend. From a local front, Avery Johnson was outstanding. Otis Washington was, tremendously appreciative of the honor. A lot of former Purple Knights in the house Saturday night in Natchitoches. Bill Baumgartner will have a story up on SportsNOLA.com coming up later Monday to talk about Otis's weekend and exactly what it meant to him. And, let's not forget Paul Houlihan as well, CEO of the All-State Sugar Bowl, getting the Dave Dixon Leadership Award. Very much deserved. A lot of Sugar Bowl people and a lot of administrators from all over the country coming in to pay tribute to Mr. Houlihan and his honor. And it was really a great night. And let me say this, that, you had a lot of, great players and people that, coaches and a lot of people that, have garnered headlines over time. The best speech of the night was our friend and our colleague in the media, Glenn Quibido, who was very heartwarming in the story that he told about the late Bobby Dower, who he shared the Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism with this year. And I don't think when Glenn was finished, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. It was really, really a tremendous speech.
Good stuff, to say the least. And, of course, you can read good stuff regarding high school football at SportsNOLA.com with our previews continuing each and every day. Read about Westlake High School and their tradition trying to be revived by a new coach. And Coach Fontenot and Benny Ellender once coached there and won a state championship. I'll bet you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either, but he did. In 1953, former Tulane coach. And, by the way, nice guy when I had the opportunity to deal with him. And you'll be able to read all about the Catholic Bears on Tuesday morning as well. More previews to come this week as we get you ready for the high school football season.
It's getting closer, isn't it?
It is. Looking forward to it. And reading all these previews gets you really fired up. And now Roche just wants to know when that St. Aug preview is coming in, right?
It's coming. It's coming. A lot of every day we'll have something new. So just stay with us here at SportsNOLA.com.
Al Jones, I got your correspondence this morning. He says it's coming. We'll see. We look forward to it. Lenny, have a great week.
All right, we'll see you later this week.
That's our First NBC Bank Weekend Review, brought to you by First NBC Bank, with 35 locations throughout metropolitan New Orleans, Southeast Louisiana, and the Florida Panhandle. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNOLA.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great week, and God bless you.